G'day, I should start saying g'day because I am from Australia, and that's one thing that we always say here. So, g'day from down under. And good evening if you're in the US or in obviously Europe and places like that. If you're from Australia, well, hello. It's only 10:30ish here, 10:30 in the morning. So I thought I'd pop on and have a chat. I didn't give people much notice this morning. Because I thought I was going to have to go out, but that got cancelled, so I can do this at the normal time. I was going to do it a fraction later, but I thought, we'd get through this now, and then I can go and get a coffee once we've finished. Excuse my hat, because I've got to wear this because I've got a shocking cold and chest cold. So I've got to keep myself nice and warm and snug. So I do sound a bit nasally. So if I stop and start coughing and things, you know what's going on. So if you are watching, say hi. Casper's here, Jordan's here, Mav Fan's here. Great to see you guys. Good to see you on board, so pop in on the chat and say hi to each other, and we can obviously have a chat while we're sort of going through this as well, and we can talk about that stuff too. So I've got a few things I want to go through with you today. There's a little bit of news. There's not much Sony news today though, which is interesting. I haven't been able to get much over the last week. It's been pretty quiet, so I've got some news that I'm going to sort of discuss with you. I've also got what's in my camera bag, and I'm going to go through another shoot with you as well, so we can go through that together a little bit later on too. So, we can have some interesting things together. Hopefully I'll stay warm, and we'll get started. So let's start off with the news, because I want to go through a couple of things with you here as well. I've just got to hope Safari doesn't crash, because it's been crashing. Now, I've noticed that this has just come through this morning. I've noticed that there's been a new update for the Sigma MC11, I think the adapter's called, and it's added the latest two lenses for the Sony system. I think it was the 12 to 35, and I'm just trying to scroll up. I think it's locked. Yeah, it's locked. Let me see if I can get it up. Nearly there. It adds more lens compatibility. So it's saying it's got now 19 Sigma global vision lenses are now compatible with the Sony full frame E-mount cameras. So this is an update, obviously, if you're running those cameras that you need to try and get it, because clearly if you're using those lenses, it's going to have a big effect. I only use the native lenses, so for me it's not really an issue, but if you are using the adapted lenses, then clearly this is a update that you'll want to actually put on there. But it was some news today, so I thought that I'd share that with you. I know a few last time were saying that you really liked using these, and it was getting great effect or great results with the Sigma and also the Canon lenses. So, yeah, let me know if you do use this system and if you're very happy with it, how it compares to your native lenses. But anyway, that was released this morning, so that's an interesting thing that actually has just been released. So I'm going to put the links down below, and so you can get to that if you want to get to it. But yeah, so that's the first bit of news that I wanted to say. Hi, Rob. Nice to see you as well. Make sure you say hi, guys, so we can have a chat. The second bit of news I wanted to talk about was this, that Sigma, the CEO has confirmed that they're going to keep developing APS-C E-mount lenses and make new FE mount lenses. So this is a really good thing. So I'm not going to play it because you can have a look yourselves if you want to read these articles with the links down below. That's where I'll put the links to these, so you can have a look at all of that. But I really do hope that companies like Sigma and Tamron and others come on board and make native E-mount lenses, because any competition that you can get will be amazing. And like I said, I used to use Sigma when I had my Nikon, and the lenses were really, really good. Their art series was amazing. I had the 35 art and the 85, I think it was, and I really, really liked them. I sold them when I went to Sony because I wanted to just get Sony E-mount lenses, but the more competition you get, the better it will be. So clearly, if Sigma start to produce lots and lots of these lenses, it's just good for any competition is good. It also might mean that you'll have a similar lens to the Sony, which may be cheaper. So I might be able to go down that avenue if I want to get some different lenses. So it's certainly a thing to think about. I just want to say hello to Robert. He's from Alabama. Rob is saying hello as well. So that's another bit of news. So let me know if any of you guys are using Sigma lenses. and some of the new lenses that are coming out. I know the 35 2.8 version's been delayed a bit, so we're going to have to wait a bit before that's out. But it looks like they're starting to support more and more lenses, which is a really, really good thing. Another thing too, if you are into the Zeiss 135, Lock has just released a review of it, so you'll be able to go and have a look at this lens review. I love the Zeiss, and like I said, when I go and show you my shoots shortly, I use the Zeiss Batis and that for the whole time. I think this lens would be beautiful to have. The only thing that stops me from sort of looking at this is the 2.8 aperture. I'm not really convinced for the price that they're asking that 2.8 aperture is good enough. If this was an f2, for instance, it probably would have been perfect, or even a 1.8. Even though it would have been a little bit bigger, that's the only issue for me, is the fact that it's only a 2.8, because it's really, really expensive. You're almost getting up into the 70 to 200 range, the GM Sony lens, excuse me. So yeah, it's fairly expensive. So let me know if any of you guys have used that lens and what you think about it. I actually haven't used it yet. I'm hoping that Sony bring out a GM 135, and then I may consider jumping down that band, or perhaps if Sigma bring out one that's native, I could possibly use that too. Just excuse my cold. So yeah, I'm interested in it, but have a look at that review anyway and see what you think about what he's saying about the GM. I only got that this morning, so I actually haven't looked at this review yet. So I'll have a look at it after we finish here, actually, and just see what Locke has to say about it. I like watching Locke's videos. Another bit of news too is Adobe has done an update as well. And basically, it's a camera raw update, and it's also giving support for the 12 to 24 f4 that's just been released, the 16 to 35 2.8 GM, and the Venus Optics 12mm now have support in Lightroom. So if you are going to use those lenses, Lightroom now has support for those lenses built in. So that's just been released this morning. I noticed I just got the update before it said to update Lightroom. And also Camera Raw. So that is available now if you are going to get those lenses. The 16 to 35 is not released yet, I don't think, but the 12 to 24 is shipping, I know, in parts of Europe now. So clearly, if you need the support for that now, it's available. So that's good. Adobe seem to be really updating their lens profiles very, very quickly, which is really good. I'm going to skip this next one because I want to go to Bowens. This was a really interesting thing, that Bowens is basically officially dead now. They've ceased, I think they've gone into receivership, or they're going to close, which is interesting because that's where that Bowens mount comes that most of the Japanese and Chinese manufacturers are using. So clearly Bowens has been hit by these Japanese flash that are coming out all the time now. If you go on eBay, they're just everywhere. These flashlight, Flash Pro, all these other things that are at Godox, all these other companies that have obviously hit Bowens really, really badly. So they've now gone, basically they're going to close. So I'm not sure how it's going to relate to the Bowens mount, what actually happens there. I'm sure the Chinese been copying that, it probably won't affect them at all, but it is interesting when you think that Bowens have that mount, and whether that's licensed to Bowens, I'm not really quite sure how that goes. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes to. So again, I've got that review in the comment box down below. You can have a read of that if you have bought Bowens gear. But it is a bit of a sad indictment of how the industry's going. It's very hard to compete with the Chinese knockoffs that can do these things, so cheaply. Yeah, so it's interesting. So again, let me know if any of you are using the Bowens stuff, Bowens flashes. I mean, I have got Bowens light mounts because the lights that I'm using, well, one of them has that Bowens adapter, so I am using it for that, but I haven't got a Bowens flashlight as such. But yeah, let me know if any of you guys have done that. So, that'd be interesting to know. Another bit of news too, I just wanted to make you aware of this, that there's a fair bit of scamming going in the US apparently with this company called Venmo or something. I haven't heard of this because we don't have that here in Australia, but apparently it's been causing a lot of photographers to lose gear, and I think some photographers are losing 20 odd thousand. Well, it's saying they're 100,000 in camera gear in just 2 weeks. So have a read of this article. Particularly, don't do it this way if you are selling anything. To be honest, I've just sold 2 A7 II cameras, and the only way I'll ever sell anything is if I deal in cash, because I just don't trust half of these scammers. I immediately put on that I was only going to accept cash and local pickup. So I was only going to sell the gear locally, and immediately I was getting all this spam, and I reckon they were probably from China or somewhere or wherever, saying they wanted to buy it for their uncle and their niece and aunt and all this sort of stuff. And could I send it? Because apparently what's even happening with PayPal is that you send it, and then they say they never got the gear, and then the money is refunded, and then you have to put through you have to basically contest it through PayPal. So I just don't want to go through any of those issues, and it's just a pain in the backside. Even though you can prove what's happened in tracking, it then holds you getting your money for so long and causes all of these issues. So I don't deal with any of that stuff now, and if I'm going to sell, I basically just sell privately for cash and pick up somewhere, or I will actually go to a shop and trade it in for an article as well if I can't be bothered in just selling privately. Even if you're selling privately person to person, you have to be careful, and I always make sure I've got another person with me, or I've really checked the person out. If I'm trying to sell it through Facebook, I'll look at their Facebook profile, make sure they are a real profile, not a fake profile. There's things like that you can check to make sure that they're real people. Make sure you get a real phone number, not just an email address. Things like that, because you have to make sure that you're dealing with real people. You don't want to be having a few $1,000s worth of gear, go to meet, and then you have someone hit you over the head and run off with the gear. Or have someone with you that you trust that can back you up in that case, and they can count the money while you've handed over that gear or something. So it's pretty important. You've got to be very, very careful, with how you actually sell things these days. There's so many people doing scams out there. So be really, really careful. I'm not really keen on selling things through eBay and all these other sites where I can't just do a cash transaction. But that's me personally. So let me know, guys, how you feel about that. Let me know if you have had issues with selling things online and whether you've ever been scammed. It seems to be a real issue at the moment. So it must be a really hot thing that's happening over in the States at the moment with this company called Venmo. I'm not quite sure how that works. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about was this, which is an interesting one from Three Legged Things. It's a it's basically your normal adapter. It's to stick on your camera so that you can shoot both ways. You can shoot landscape and also portrait. It's an L bracket, but this one has apparently it can be adapted to fit any camera. So if you are thinking about getting this with multiple cameras, it does adapt to different cameras. So it may be something that you might be able to use on your Sony A7 IIs and stuff. But I've left this in here so you can have a look at it. And I'm going to show you a couple that I use in a minute with the gear that's in my bag. But this is an interesting one that Three Legged Things. And they do make really, really nice high-end gear. And it's an Arca Swiss type adapter as well, which is what I like because everything I've got is Arca Swiss. So let me know what you think about that and whether you do use L brackets, because, I've got two, but I very rarely use them because I'm shooting so much video and video at the same time, like photos and video. I've tended not to use it at all. Casper said I use B&H and K cameras for trade. Yeah, and that might be the best way to use companies that you can really rely on, Casper. You really do have to be careful on where you sell. And like I said, I'm only dealing with selling things for cash and local pickup because I just don't want to have all these issues and stress of having to then justify things if things go wrong, and then they're saying that they don't deliver them, deliver the articles and things like that. It's just something that I don't want to deal with. So yeah, that's just me personally. But what I want to talk to you about too is this, because I wanted to show you this. These are two L brackets that I actually use. This one here is for the A6000. Now this will fit the A6500 and the A6300 as well. So they're really nice little brackets. You just screw them in on the bottom, and then basically it gives you the ability to put your camera either way. It's much quicker than, or better than having your tripod mount and bending your tripod mount over. You can just take it off and then just click it straight onto the thing. I've got two of these, which this one's for the A7R II and the A7 IIs that I've used as well. This is I think it's a Sunwan Photo. I'll just see if you can get it there. And this one is the same brand, I think. But let me just see if it'll focus. Yeah, so they're both the same brands, but they're really, really nicely made, actually. I think I got these from B&H Photo. So I do use these sometimes if I'm just doing portraits. If I know I'm going to go out and I'm only going to do photos, I will use these because it is nice if you're going between portrait and landscape to just be able to change it. And then the center of gravity of your camera is sitting underneath here instead of being pushed out with your tripod head. So it's much better to sit it down like that and that way on your camera. So they do work really, really well. Robert's saying he uses L brackets on his A6300 and A6500. So there's a couple there that I've looked, and like I said, I got those from B&H ages ago. They may not even be available anymore, but I got those from B&H. But have a look at that three-legged thing as well, because that could be an interesting one to look at as well. I love the colour. It's cool, that orange too. It's pretty cool. So have a look at that too, and let me know if you are using L brackets as well, guys, or whether you just use a cage or something. So, let me know what you're using in that respect. So what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to go over to a shoot because I want to take you through a shoot that I've done. So let me just clear that. Bring this up. And we'll go back to here. And I'm going to go to here. Now, this was a shoot that I did a while ago, but I actually showed that if you go to my live broadcast that I did last week, you'll see the shoot prior to this, which was shot with flash. Now, most of these that you're going to see now are actually continuous lights that I'm using. So I'll talk to you about this, what I did in this case. Because I thought I could sort of mention this. There is some flash stuff that I do near the end, but a lot of these are actually done just by using continuous lights. And I just wanted to do that in this case, even though I had my Profoto gear with me. I just wanted to see how I would go with using continuous lighting in this situation and to see how soft or sharp that it actually would be. Again, it sort of fits the way that I shoot because it is got that sort of high contrasty type look about it. But, I love the way the bokeh fall off is at the back. This is shot with the 85 Batis. I've shot this at f1.8 and it's ISO 1250. It was very dark. And like I said, it's the 85 and I think pretty sure it was the A7R II. So you can see it's got that lovely fall off in the background. You've got your nice bokeh. So I did expose for that initially when I started to expose. Again, remember, I did want to get some ambient light that was in the background before I worried about what grace was going to be. So I did expose for that in the beginning to make sure I was happy with what I was getting in the background, and then I filled in the lights. Now, all I had two I think this was the Neo Rotor lights that I used here. So I had two Neo Rotor lights and I balanced the colour to match the ambient. So I did make it quite warm. That's why she's got that nice warm look about her. So I've got one that's filling in the face on this side and her body. And I also had another one that was off camera here to give this fill in her head and that separation from the background. So it was sort of streaming in through this area through here. So I was using a two light setup. Now it's important to do that because if I didn't do it, luckily Grace has got fairly blonde hair though, so she would have still had that separation. But when I show you some images later on, you'll see that you need that separation in the background if they've got dark hair to give that bit of kick. So that's why I was using multiple lights in this case. I actually think I had three, to be honest. I think I had one here, and that was filling in all of that area, the face, but it gave a really hard shadow on this side. So I think I had another one that was through here that filled in with less power to give a bit of fill into those shadows. And then I had the third one up here, which gave that light through there. I did actually, yeah, I did have three. you're still going to get these shadows, and there's not much you can do about that in this case unless you use something like a diffuser to go through and soften that light even more. I could have done that if I wanted to, but I'm not worried about it, and the client loves these. I'm quite happy with that look that I get out of that. I like that contrasty type look, so that didn't bother me at all. So that's the first one that we can look at. I'll click to another one where it's more of a sort of a full body type image. Again, this is 1/80th of a second, f1.8. The ISO hasn't changed. It's 1250, and it's the 85mm Batis. Again, I've exposed, when you're looking at this for the background, I want to get exposure through here, otherwise it's just going to be pitch black, and I've used the exact same lighting system that I've used before. It's given her that lovely fill out of the background. So once I've got the exposure right for the background, I've then turned the lights on, and I've adjusted the power on those lights until I get them to balance, and I've also adjusted the colour balance to match as well. Because if I made it too white, well, obviously she wouldn't look correct. She'd be too white against that lovely ambient colour, which is what I was trying to match to. So that's really important as well. And I love the way that these photos actually turned out. There's another one there which is just a different crop. Again, I came in closer, and you can sort of see again that I've had that 3 fill. Now she's got fairly darker hair, so again that's why it's important to have that fill light, which was just off camera here. There was another one off here just to give fill, and then the other one was off this area to light up all of this section as well. So I've got the 3 lights to sort of see. You can often see them, that when you're looking, you can sort of see when you look at them where the lights are actually positioned. If I didn't have that fill light, she would have had really hard edges on her nose and stuff, and that's why I added that second fill light. The light up the hair light is only for doing that section on there and this section through here. So it's important when you're using multiple lights like this. I couldn't have just done this with one light because it would have been quite hard, and I wanted to get that nice, reasonably soft look, but it's still contrasty, but like I said, I don't mind that. Again, I've dialed in the color balance on the lights to control it, and also the power on each light to give the effect that I wanted. So I had 3 people holding these lights, so I had 3 assistants when we were doing this shoot. If we go to the next one, it's just another body one, so you can sort of see that this one is the same. This one's more environmental, the same as the next one. Again, I didn't want to blow out the background completely, so I've just adjusted that ambient exposure for that. So I have still got the ambient exposure in the background, otherwise it would have been way too dark. But I didn't want that. So, and again, the lights are just off camera and filling in the background. This is another one that I've done, which is the same shot as well. You can see that she's getting that nice fill in her hair coming through here. That's from the off-camera lights that are through here. It's not actually from the back lights. It's actually from the lights filling in the background. It just looks that way. If I didn't have that, she wouldn't have had that separation that you can see up here, for instance. She wouldn't have had that light that you can see there, and her hair would have been lost in that background. So it's really, really important that you have that separation in your image, guys. And sometimes I'll put a flash behind them to give that separation as well. But it is really important that you add that, because if you don't have that, she would be lost and there'd be no separation at all from her from behind. And it just wouldn't have the same type of look that you get. And you can see that here in this one. Again, she has nice dark hair, ebony, but you need that sort of lift. You need that lift over here to sort of separate it, and even here through the hair and then shoulder through here. It just gives it that nice look that you're getting that adds a lovely separation from the background, that if you didn't have that fill light and that hair light, the keys and the fills, you just wouldn't have it. And again, it's so important to balancing that ambient light with the lights that you're adding in. It just gives it a much nicer look. And you can see that again if we look at the next one. You can see here that she's had that lovely separation now that she's been given. And again, she's got these lights, this separation that have been given from the background. If I didn't have that, she would have been pitch black in those areas, and you would have lost her completely in that area, and this would have all blended in to the background. And that would be terrible. And that's where a lot of people, especially starting, make mistakes. They don't realise to think about how is the model going to be affected by the background that she's standing in. So you've really got to be conscious of that, guys, that when you're shooting, to be really conscious, especially if they have dark hair, of having that little bit of separation from the background, which gives it that kick that you need to actually show through. Again, you can see it here. This one's not so bad because she's got much lighter hair. But again, I've even added that kick there too to give that separation as well, which is what you needed to have that coming through. And again, it's important to have that separation in each case. We moved down to a different section here. So they are actually on a bridge. Now, I've used off-camera flash here because I was too far away to use the continuous lights. So I went back to the Profoto unit, and the actual units were off camera. They're actually off camera over here, and they had the 2-foot octa. They were on a light stand, so my assistant could hold them up fairly high with a grid with a 2-foot octa, and it had the grid on it, so I could control the light because I didn't want all of this stuff to light up. So that's what's given her that lovely fill coming in from the side of the face. And again, I've balanced for all of that ambient first because I wanted to make sure that I did get all of this ambient in. I just couldn't do much about the fill through the hair because there was no way we could get into this area to light from the back. But I'm quite happy nonetheless with how these have actually turned out. I mean, I actually think they've come up really quite pretty. Again, with a dancer, this was the first one that I did. It was lit exactly the same way as before. This is 1/100th of a second, f1.8, 1250, and it's the 85mm Batis. If you look at the second one, I've done a bit of a different pose. The lovely lights in the background. Now, you do get that with the Batis, and that's one thing. People either love it or they hate it, but you will get the eggy type out of focus. If you want to get rid of that, you need to go to the GM version, the 1.4. I'm not worried about it. My clients never, ever worry about the shape of the bokeh balls in the background, so it doesn't stress me in the least. I actually quite like it. So, you know, and that's lovely. I think I really like the exposure. Again, I've had to balance this exposure. Now, I did have to put a filter over the flash to make it warm, so I did have to put a yellow correction filter over it. If I didn't do that, it would have been really blue, and the surrounding area would have all looked nice and yellow, and then she would have looked all sort of blue, and it would have looked wrong. So just make sure if you are using flash that you do balance your flash to your ambient exposure. That's really important to get that type of look that you're after. And again, like I said, all the time you want to actually balance your exposure and your ambient as well. Don't forget to expose for your ambient first and then add the fill flash in. It's really important to do it that way. This one was Maddie. Again, she was lit from that flash on that side. And, you know, I just love the way that these images look. I think they look like quite high fashion, and I really think that they're pretty. It was incredibly challenging, though. You can see that because I've had to shoot with 1.8 and it's 1250 ISO. It was very, very dark and challenging. Focusing was not a problem at all. The face focus worked really well. The eye focus worked really well. So I can't complain about that one little bit, and I was really happy with how this focused. This is another one. Again, a similar pose to the other one. It just looks beautiful. I probably could have put more separation on the background. In hindsight, I probably would have had a flash standing behind and lit up her hair at the back. But from what I've got, I'm actually quite happy with that. But a bit of fill there, separation at the background, would have probably made that kick even a little bit more. The next one we go down to is here. And again, it's a similar sort of pose to what we had before. So I just wanted to take you through those images, you know, just to give you a look of what you can sort of do with continuous lights as well as flashlights. Thanks, Casper. I'm glad you like the images. So, you know, have a think about doing stuff like that. Like, have a think about using something like an ice light or a continuous light like the Neo lights or something that have that color control, and then you can actually balance your background as well. Just make sure that you expose for your ambient first, though, and then add the light in and and I'm really happy with how those results came out. Yeah, thanks, Jordan. I'm glad that you really like those images. So that's all really we've got to talk about today. Is there any questions, guys, you want to talk about before we finish for the day? Because we can see if there's any questions that anyone has. Not sure whether there will be any, but let me know if any questions. If you haven't got, if you're not actually watching live and you want to get some questions later on, please leave those down below, and I always get back to you. Personally, I make sure that I answer everything that people want to know. And obviously, if you can, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to it yet. Just to let you know too, the wedding and portrait studio series that I'm building about setting up your business will be starting again. I've just been hit with a lot of work, and also this cold has knocked me back a bit. So I haven't done that for 3 weeks, but I am definitely going to get back to that as soon as I can, guys, as soon as possible. So I do want to get back onto that fairly soon. The next one I want to show you is the bags that I use, and then I'm going to start showing you how I built the business, like what software I use and marketing and all these other things. I want to get onto that with you as well. So is there any questions that you'd like me to answer before we go? Casper said, have I tried the G5? No, I haven't really tried it yet, Casper. I've just been looking at some videos and stuff and seeing how to set it up and stuff. I did download the Vlog profile, and I've got that now installed, so I'm looking at setting that up and how that works with color correction and stuff like that, and setting up log profiles and all this sort of stuff in the camera and things like that. So I'm still trying to do it. I did look quickly at the autofocus, and the autofocus is nowhere near what I'm using in my A9 or the A6 500s and stuff, but it doesn't bother me. I'm quite comfortable using manual focus on that GH5, so I'm not worried about that at all. But I'll let you know when I do get it working, because I'll probably put a review up or something of how it goes or something. Like I said, I'm still going to be 99% Sony on here. I just bought that to fill in a need that I've got at the moment for shooting 4K 60p. But I will let you all know how it fits in with my work when I start doing fusion videos particularly. But yeah, from what I've seen, looking at it, it's a really, really nice camera, and I really like the way it looks. Jordan says, do you ever use the 55 Zeiss on 1.8 on the A6 300? I don't have an 85 yet for my A7 II, but I figure the 55 will give me a similar length. Yes, I do. I use that a lot, particularly on I've got the A6 500 now, but it's the same. I mean, they're basically the same camera. I use that a lot on the A6 500, and I used to use it on the A6 300 for the 85 focal range, yeah, and I love that. It works amazingly well. That's 55 is I reckon it's the fastest focusing lens that Sony have. If you have issues with focusing in low light, I always move to the 55. For some reason, that lens focuses faster than any other Sony lens. So it's really, really important that if you do have focusing issues, that you may want to consider getting that lens just for the focusing alone. I was doing a wedding a while ago, which was under low light, and I was shooting with the 35 1.4 and also the Batis 85, and it was that dark in those conditions that the focus did struggle a little bit. The second that I put the 55 on, it was bang, it was on. So I learned a big lesson from that if it is really, really low light, the 35mm is an amazing focusing lens. The other lens that focuses really, really quick as well is the 35.2.8. That lens focuses really, really quick as well. So they're my two favorite for low light focusing, is the 35 2.8 and the 55 1.8. It may have something to do with the size of those lenses. I'm not sure that there's less things that have to move inside those lenses, but boy, are they quick. Jordan says, yes, it is a great lens, and it is, and it's so sharp. That lens is ridiculously sharp. There is a bit of aberration on it, chromatic aberration on the edges, but Lightroom just fixes it and it's gone. But there's chromatic aberrations on a lot of new lenses that are released now. I don't worry about that because you can fix it so easy in Lightroom. But fantastic lens, and I'd never sell that lens for that reason alone, just for the low light focusing that lens gives, and plus it's dead sharp, and I get the 85mm focal range on the A6 500, which is great. So are there any more last questions, guys, before we finish and I head off for a coffee and lunch? Otherwise, like I said, you can leave your questions down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I will be starting that series again coming up from probably next week. So we'll look at that. I've got a shoot on the weekend that I'm going to be shooting. It's a studio shoot with a stack of junior models on Sunday morning and some senior models on Sunday afternoon. I will be filming that. So I'll be putting that online as well, so you'll be seeing that, how that's done. And I've got some backdrops that were sent to me from Kate Backdrops, I think it is. She sent me a couple of backdrops and I'm going to look at and use for that as well. So look out for that, because that's going to be really exciting videos I'm going to be sharing soon. Jordan says, I want the 35 1.4, but it is so expensive. Oh, Jordan, that's amazing. I'm just going to bring you up this file because I'd love to show you this this shot that I did on the weekend. Sorry, the other day. I really hate doing baby shoots, and it's something that I am extremely uncomfortable doing. Once this opens up, I'll bring it up for you so you can have a look. Let me just rewind, make this a bit smaller, and I need to find where it is, because I'd love to show you this, because I want to show you how beautiful this lens renders. I've just got to find where it is. See it? I do so many shoots. Here we go. All right, so let me go to rated. And 5. All right, so I'm just going to switch over to this. Let me take questions off. So I did this the other day, and like I said, I hate doing baby shoots. Honestly, I don't like doing them at all. I think it's a guy thing. I'm just not that comfortable in holding the baby and doing all the things that I need to do. That I dread doing them, and to be honest, if someone usually asks me to do them, I'll pass the shoots on. So I'll tend to not do the shoots at all. I'll pass them on to another photographer. But this is my new grandchild, so I had no choice. My wife said, David, you're shooting it, so I did. But these were all done in daylight, and and I think they're beautiful. I'm just not very good at doing this type of shoot, but I mean, the images look lovely, I think. But I just thought that I'd show you so you can sort of see the type of look that 35 will give you. And they're stunning. These were all shot at 35mm. And they're just beautiful. The fall off on this was shot with the A9, with the 35 1.4 lens on it in daylight in my studio. So I just used natural light for these shots. The eye focus on the A9 was insane. I couldn't believe how good that camera actually went. It was amazing. I just adored using it. The eye focus was picking the baby up. It was so fast. It was amazing. So these were all shot in daylight on with the 35 1.4. And you've seen that lovely fall off that 35mm 1.4 will give you. It's just gorgeous. And I just love the way that lens gives the rendering that it gives, the focus control on it, and the way you use the aperture control on the lens itself is just a stunning lens. And that's probably my favorite 35mm lens, that lens, and I adore it. So Jordan, it is expensive, but honestly, it is worth every bit of money that you spend on that lens. It's a stunning lens. It's just gorgeous, and these results speak for themselves. The fall off on this lens is gorgeous. It focused amazingly, and if you're doing low light, well, not low light, but if you're doing natural light type work like this, it gives a beautiful result. And I just thought I'd show you that type of work that this gives me. Like I said, I normally don't do these type of shots at all because I just don't think I'm very good at it. But I'm happy with how these are anyway, and my daughter-in-law adores them, my wife loves them, and everyone that's seen them loves them. So, I think they're nice. It's just not the type of shoots that I tend to want to do. So, like I said, I'll normally knock them back. I'll just switch back to here. Jess said, what about the Sony Zeiss FE50 2470? Do you use that lens? Yes, I do. I use that a lot in studio, Jess. It's a very, very good lens. Again, I think that's very underrated. I found that lens to be really quite sharp, and I often use that in studio. It's a really good lens, lovely and small, nice and light, great to put on a gimbal. So yeah, I find that lens is really, really quite good. So I've got no hesitation in that. Like I said, again, for me, I don't want to go to the 2.8 versions of these lenses, the GM versions, because I'm just not interested in that weight. So that for me is an important thing. Clearly, the GM, I'm just fixing up my hat. Clearly, the GM versions are better. But you pay for that, and you also have to lug that weight around. Now, if you need the 2.8, well, obviously that's something that you have to do. For me, I'm quite happy shooting with the f4 versions. Then if I'm going to be shooting anything that needs faster lenses, I go to primes. But that's just the way that I'm working. So I really like the 2470 f4. I think it's a great lens. It's stabilized. It's really, really good. Casper said, I still can't get the hang of the 35. Why is that, Casper? You just don't like it, or... Jordan said, great shots. Thanks, Jordan. Jordan also said, I use the 2470 f4. Some people moan about it, but I think it's good, and I do too. I think there's no problem with that. Whether I've got a really good version, I'm not sure. But, you know, I'm actually quite happy with how that lens works. And I think it's a very underrated lens, just like most of the f4 ones are. The 70-200 f4 is an amazing lens. I love that lens. I love the compression it gives. It's incredibly fast focusing. I just don't see any need to go to the GM version, but other people will think differently. But again, everyone shoots differently and everyone sees something different. I'd prefer to buy a really good prime than I would with say the 70-200 GM. But that's just me, and we all shoot differently. I just love primes, so you know, it's just the way they are. My two favourite ones are the 35mm focal length and the 85. That's my two favourite lenses, and I could live all day with those two lenses. And I often shoot 90% of my shoots with those two lenses. So, you know, that's just the way it is. So is there any last questions before we go? Otherwise, I'm going to head off, and we'll see you again for some more videos soon. So it might be that's the end of it, guys. So anyway, have a great day. Have a great evening if you're in the States or in Europe. If you're obviously local or in New Zealand or Australia, have a great day, guys. And I'll see you all again soon for the next video. Last question. Jordan said, my next buy is a 16-35 Zeiss. I've got the f4 version of that, Jordan, and I love it. Again, I won't be buying the 2.8 version, I don't think. I've got the 16-35 f4. I may get a prime wide. That's what I'm starting to think, that I may go for a really wide prime, but I'll see. And I've also got the 10-18 for the A6500 as well, so I've got that to cover it. And I can put that on full frame and get 12mm out of it. So if I need wider than 16, I can use that 10-18 on and get 12mm to 14 millimeter on that. So I think it's the 10-18. Yeah, I can get 12 to 14 on full frame with that lens, and it's really actually quite good. All right, guys, I'm heading off. So that's all for now, and thanks a lot for watching, and we'll be on roughly about the same time next week, so please log in for the next live broadcast, and I'll have the studio shoots being put up from next week, and I'll try and get back onto my business shoots next week as well, and I'll let you know how I'm going with the GH5 as well. So bye, guys, have a great day.